The movie opens in Spain during the 1930s. A young girl ventures into the serenity of a nearby forest where she encounters her friend Inez. A sight of peculiarity meets her eyes as she sees Inez. Calm and unfazed with her hand ablaze, strangely, Inez seems unaffected by the flames that dance on her skin, indicating no signs of pain. Persuaded by her friend's eerie composure, the girl naively allows Inez to pour oil on her head. As Inez tries to share her fiery touch, the girl's consumed by flames. Far from the unscathed experience of Inez, she screams in terror and agony as the fire engulfs her. Meanwhile, in another part of town, a mother is frantically searching for her son, Benigno. Her search engine the chilling confines of their basement, where she finds Benigno biting into his own skin. Like Inez, he appears senseless to the pain. The sight of her son's self-mutilation sends the woman into a panicked frenzy, and she immediately rushes him to a hospital. At the hospital, a dedicated doctor named Carcedo introduces Benigno, among the other children with similar mysterious conditions, to a group of officials. He firmly states that his belief is that these children are burdens with an unknown sickness which takes away their ability to feel any sort of pain. To demonstrate this bizarre phenomenon, he subjects Benigno to a burning test, raising eyebrows and shock amongst the present officials. Carcedo insists that for their safety and the well-being of others, these unusual children must be isolated. The officials communicate this situation to the public, attracting a swarm of onlookers. Amidst the chaos, Benigno's mother reunites with him in a heartfelt hug, only to be separated again as the authorities whisk him away. The children are then relocated to a secluded institution where precautionary measures are put in place to inhibit self-harm. Special protective attire is provided, and each child is confined within a solitary cell to prevent any harm to one another. Once secured in his cell, Benigno, exhibiting a strong will, manages to liberate himself from his protective buildings and begins to explore escape possibilities. A nurse enters to feed him and notices his freed state but opts to leave him be. During their interaction, he touches her face, eliciting a tearful response from her. This bewilders Benigno as he is unfamiliar with the concept of crying. As she explained that tears are a response to pain or joy, he finds it hard to comprehend, having never experienced either. After leaving Benigno's cell, the nurse consults with Carcedo, who now spearheads the research on those extraordinary children. She suggests bringing on board a well-known scientist, Dr. Hubert, in hopes of uncovering the mystery of their condition. However, Carcedo rejects the proposal, fearing it might bruise his pride to seek external assistance, especially considering Dr. Hubert's busy schedule. As the tale continues, Benigno, the ever-resourceful boy, obtains a spoon, turning it into a makeshift tool to carve a tunnel through his cell wall. His determination fuels his laborious effort that spans 4 long years, resulting in a small peephole into the neighboring cell. The sight that greets him is none other than Inez, his fellow pain-immune companion. Their eyes meet, a glimmer of joy shared in their otherwise somber world. This fleeting moment of happiness is cut short with the unexpected arrival of Dr. Hubert in Benigno's room. Dr. Hubert, a Jewish scientist hailing from Germany, reveals to Carcedo that his journey took longer than expected. Despite the delay, he expresses his resolve to work alongside Carcedo, hopeful of discovering a remedy for the children's unique condition. Determined to unravel the mystery, Hubert proceeds to subject the children to an array of tests. His strategy involves a unique educational approach aimed at teaching the children about pain, with the goal of discouraging them from causing harm to others. As part of this approach, Hubert presents the children with a group of puppies, one of which he tells them has a kidney tumor. Challenging the children, he asks them to identify the afflicted puppy. Inez successfully points out the right one, prompting Hubert to instruct the children to perform surgery on the puppy without anesthesia. Displaying unexpected finesse, Benigno successfully extracts the tumor without inflicting any evident pain on the puppy. His request to keep the puppy, however, is promptly dismissed by Carcedo, who orders him back to his cell. Although Carcedo expresses his distaste for Hubert's methods, the latter insists that Inez and Benigno are special cases. Unbeknownst to them, Benigno manages to conceal the puppy and smuggles it into his cell. Night falls, and in the quiet, Benigno allows Inez to pet the dog through the small hole in the wall. Their moment of joy is shattered as the puppy's excited barks rouse the nurses. 2 nurses rush to Benigno's cell, and one of them, enraged, lands multiple blows on him after confiscating the puppy. In retaliation, Benigno slashes at the nurse's leg, the commotion drawing attention of Carcito and Hubert. As Hubert calmly tries to confiscate Benigno's makeshift weapon, Carcito loses his composure, slapping Benigno. Hubert intervenes, urging Carcito to maintain his scientific temperament. Carcito, however, is firm in his belief that Benigno is a dangerous entity. Vowing to keep him confined to his cell, the year is 1936 and the turbulent Spanish Civil War erupts, disrupting the tranquility of the facility housing the pain-immune children. Communist soldiers infiltrate the institution, intending to convert the children's cells into a storage hub for their ammunition. The soldiers command that all the children be crammed into a single cell. The doctors, however, strongly resist this proposal, emphasizing the importance of keeping the children separate. When the soldiers resort to intimidating the staff with weapons, Dr. Hubert steps in. He weaves a tale of the children suffering from a highly contagious, dreadfully severe disease, advising the soldiers against any physical contact with them. This surprising revelation prompts the soldiers to reconsider their plan. Instead of moving the children, they choose to stay and use the facility as a shelter. As time progresses, the chilling presence of Nazi soldiers descends upon the facility. The communist soldiers hastily disguise themselves as nurses in an attempt to blend in unnoticed. The Nazis, however, round up everyone, ordering them to expose their shoulders. This inspection aims to identify individuals with the characteristic bruises of heavy gun usage, a potential indication of their enemy status. Those found bearing these signs are singled out for execution. As the Nazis prepare to carry out their grim task, Hubert interjects, revealing his identity as a German scientist sent on a mission to study the children's unique condition. With this revelation, Hubert, the nurses, and the children are spared, while the remaining individuals, included Carcito, meet their tragic end at the hands of the Nazis. Several agonizing months roll by, and the facility finds itself struggling amidst the storm of the Civil War, with resources including food and medicine dwindling dangerously low. Inez, severely weakened by the dire circumstances, falls into a state of despair. Overwhelmed with compassion, Hubert decides to mercifully end her suffering, injecting her with a lethal substance. Benigno witnesses this sorrowful act from his cell, is consumed by a wave of grief and rage. When Hubert enters his room, Benigno feigns a moment of affection, hugging the doctor only to betray him by stabbing him in the back. Seizing the needle Hubert had brought, Benigno launches into a frenzied attack, stabbing the doctor repeatedly. A nurse observes this horrifying scene and promptly locks Benigno away, surrendering the keys to the Nazis. By the year 1940, soldiers venture into Benigno's cell, where a chilling sight greets them. A skeleton hung from the window, casting eerie shadows across the room. Benigno, significantly changed, stood within the gloom. Now bald, his body was etched with scars of his own making, adding to the room's chilling atmosphere. The commanding soldier engages Benigno in conversation, informing him of his new identity, Bracano, a symbol of revolution. The year is 1944, and the soldiers have found a crucial use for Benigno's inability to feel pain, using him to extract valuable information from spies and enemies through torture. This brutal practice continued for nearly 2 decades until 1963, when the soldiers presented him with a woman captive, with the intention of coercing her to reveal her leader's identities. Left alone with the woman, instead of following orders, Benigno chooses to set her free, handing her the blade as a show of trust. The woman, given the chance, points the blade at Benigno's throat, but finds herself unable to end his life. In this emotional encounter, Benigno finds himself falling in love with her. A year later, when the soldiers come to his room, they discover the woman in a state of pregnancy. They attempt to eliminate her, but Benigno intervenes, subduing the soldier. When the soldier regains consciousness, he's met with the sight of the visibly pregnant woman. A bargain is struck between the soldier and Benigno, whereby the soldier agrees to let them be in exchange for the child. True to his word, the soldier claims the newborn and orders the cell to be sealed shut, condemning the couple to a life of confinement. Fast forward to the present day, where we meet Benigno's son, a man named David, who has followed in his footsteps. to become a doctor. His wife, Aeneas, is pregnant and the couple is on a car journey. Tensions arise between the two as they argue over David's lack of time for his family due to his busy schedule. Amidst the heated exchange, David loses consciousness, leading to a catastrophic car crash. David awakens in the hospital, disoriented and in pain just long enough to be aware of an impending surgery before losing consciousness again. Upon regaining consciousness after the operation, David stumbles out of bed plagued by confusion. Weak from the surgery and his injuries, he collapses in his search for his wife. A fellow doctor assists him, guiding him to the baby's room, where he is hit with the devastating news. His wife didn't survive the crash, but their baby had been miraculously saved. The next day, despite the doctor's insistence on resting, David dresses himself and prepares to return to work. It is then that the doctor shares a dire revelation. David has been diagnosed with lymphoma, a type of cancer. His only hope of survival lies in receiving a bone marrow transplant from one of his parents. Initially, David is reluctantly aware that the procedure comes with a risk and that his parents are advancing in age. However, the doctor persuades him to consider the option, reminding him of his newborn child who needs a father. David finds himself at home sinking into deep thought about his current situation. After much consideration, resolving to approach his parents for assistance. Upon reaching them, he reveals the recent turn of events, the car crash, the loss of his wife, the survival of his child, and his critical need for a bone marrow transplant. His parents are relieved to hear of the survival of his child, but are regretfully unable to assist with the transplant, unable to provide a clear reason why. They leave David feeling puzzled and slightly frustrated. On the following day, David's mother pays him a visit at the hospital. She brings with her a revelation that leaves David stunned. They are not his biological parents. David was brought to them by her husband, Adon, who had been working as a policeman in jail. They had chosen to adopt him, especially as she had been pregnant at the time, but had unfortunately lost her child. She shares that she woke up one morning, baby David cradled in her arms. David, curious about his true heritage, inquires about his biological parents. He admits to not knowing much about them and shares that Adon had always insisted on keeping their adoption of David a secret. Inspired to delve deeper into his past, David visits the facility now abandoned and damaged from the wars. He discovers a card belonging to the National Confederation of Veterans of Labor which bears an address. Armed with his new lead, David visits the organization's leader, hoping to learn more about his real father. The man recounts the horrors of the wars and mentions a man named Jose who was imprisoned in the same facility but managed to escape. David expresses his wish to meet Jose and the man agrees. Later, David confronts Adon with his new information about the former prisoner whom he plans to meet the next day. Adon sternly advises David against seeking out this man, warning him that nothing but madness and sorrow will come of it. He tells David that his biological father is long dead and advises him to leave the past behind. Unconvinced and feeling betrayed by his adoptive father's perceived dishonesty, David leaves in a huff, ignoring his adoptive mother's pleas for him to stay. A few days later, David meets with the former prisoner. He questions the man about his biological mother who was supposedly incarcerated in the facility during the 1960s. In response, the former prisoner mentions a name, Burcano, which was Benigno's given name. He describes Burcano as a man who never uttered a word and seemed immune to pain. David then shows Jose a picture of Adon from his days as a soldier. Recognizing his tormentor, Jose screams out in fright. After learning about Adon's connection with his real father, David is compelled to seek out more. He phones Adon telling him that he's coming over and that he expects the full truth. He arrives at his parents' house only to find it eerily quiet. With no response to his knocks, he resorts to entering the house through a window. Inside, he stumbles upon a woman who turns out to be his biological mother being interrogated by Adon and his comrades. The recording leaves David shocked but determined to discover more. Venturing upstairs, he discovers a grim sight. His foster mother lies lifeless in the bathroom and Adon sits nearby in a chair. In this quiet moment, Adon confesses his love for David. He loved him like his own son, even though David has the haunting eyes of his biological father, Benigno. Looking into those eyes, so reminiscent of the past, proves so much for Adon. Before he can reveal any more about David's origins, Adon takes his own life, leaving David alone in the room, shocked and confused. However, David's thirst for the truth isn't quenched by this tragedy. He heads back to the old facility, intent on uncovering more. He locates the cell that once belonged to his father, and in a fit of determination, he breaks down the wall. A hidden passage leads to an underground room, dark and unsettling. As he navigates the tunnel, a familiar sound meets his ears. The same sobbing he had heard on the tape at Adon's house. Following the sound, he stumbles upon a lighter casting a dim glow next to a tape player. In the same light, he also discovers a dead woman, his biological mother. While he's absorbed in the new discovery, a figure steps into view, his body covered with countless scars. It's Benigno, David's biological father, who stands behind him, touching his shoulder and watching as David cries. In his intense moment, Benigno notices something. David's eyes are the same blue as his own. Caught off guard, David drops the lighter, which ignites the dry debris on the floor. The room starts to fill with flames, but instead of fleeing or attacking, David Benigno quietly steps into the fire. He cradles the body of the dead woman, and amidst the raging fire, Benigno and David share a long, intense gaze. The movie wraps up with a soul-stirring narration by David, addressing his newborn son, a tiny being whose face he has yet to gaze upon, and whose name remains a mystery to him. He tenderly wills a vow, with an assurance that reverberates with a depth of emotion. He declares his child free, befittingly indicating that the child now possesses the reins of his own narrative. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next video.